with me, Karun Ali on playing on Baze Radio.co the KE. Welcome. If you're tuning in right now, this is Baze Radio.co the KE. My good name is Silva Kido. It's 3 minutes past 3 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been waiting to meet her. I've had stories about her. She's very inspiring. She is hardworking. I'm talking to one and only Irene Karuga. Director, the new director, actually Leasing Association of Kenya, director. Hey, Irene Karuga as well is a lease practitioner, founder and director, Lemic Leasing Limited. And finally, today we're here for one cause. Irene is here as an author, How We Rise. Welcome to Baze Radio.co the KE. How's your afternoon going?
Thank you so much for having me. It's really going great. I mean, I couldn't have imagined a better day to come than today when I've just actually been elected for a position that allows me then to also make this story more real, even to the audience.
How did the election come about?
Well, I think looking at what is currently happening in the country and to say what difference can I make based on the skills that I have. I've been part of the leasing industry. Basically, the leasing industry is one of the industries we have in what we call financial services sector, where we are an alternative to banks in terms of offering solutions to businesses. And we felt that in the conversations going on in terms of having the youth employed, creating opportunities, for example, to reduce our level of debt, then it is one of the industries that can really be a pivotal place. So when we looked at it, we felt that it can make a difference. So given the fact that I am already running my own business and I'm in a position where I'm able to see the impact of what we do, I thought, why not be in a more broader position where I'm able to influence the conversations happening in our industry and also being almost a guide to the government on what alternatives can be provided to give solutions to this country.
Amazing. Congratulations one more time for being the new director. Hey, I know the feeling, you feel like I need to call my family, I need to let my husband, I need to let my kids. I'm the new director. It's a win for the community. It's a win for the women in the society. You represent women in the society.
Yes.
That's why you're here to have this amazing conversation. I see the future is bright. I see one day, hopefully, Irene will live to see this, a Kenyan, female president.
And we really look forward to that. And I think the conversations are already going on from a broader perspective. We saw the recent president who was elected. And I think for us, what happens is there's a lot of hope, even with what is currently going on in the US. Many women are rising up in leadership. We already saw that even in Kenya, with more governors coming in from previously one governor. So I believe the time is ripe for the women to take on the mantle.
The time is right. Now, Irene, we're here to discuss your journey, your inspiration, the brain, the behind the story. It's a new book in town, guys. If you haven't heard about this book, please don't do anything because we're here to unwind How We Rise. Everyone has a story. Irene, you have your own different story, but this story is so special. We're having 12 authors coming together to share their journey, their inspiration, their background. Amazing thing to see. When you come together, we win together. Irene, what is the story behind this? What is the inspiration behind this? How we rise? How did we even end up doing this?
Thank you so much for that. So How We Rise is really a new book that will be launched on the 2nd of August, and we look forward to actually having all of us join in the conversation. This is a story of 12 very different women. A number of us are from very different sectors. And how we came together was we all lived our lives. We all had our story in terms of how we've risen in our careers. Most of us have already gotten to a place where we are in positions of leadership, running our own business or influencing decisions across multiple sectors. So there was a gentleman called Duda Radido. He's actually the publisher and the founder of Zion Publishers Limited. So he had previously actually come up with a volume where he brought in other leaders who have risen in the female world, and he wrote a book called She Leads. Based on that response from the market, that there was a need to bring in another group of people to really tell their stories on how we rose, what challenges we went through. So we all came in as very different women. We never knew each other. We actually were given one task. Tell us your story in terms of your challenges and your resilience. So we got to know I got to know the other 11 authors actually about a week ago is when we actually met and we put our face. So everybody told their story. But what is interesting about the book is all of us are from very different sectors, which cut across manufacturing, financial services. We cut across people who are in leadership and coaching. We have people who are doing mentoring, and we even have people in the development world. But what is unique, when our stories were all merged into a book, they all resonated on common aspects. So that's what makes the book really unique. So when you open each chapter, it almost gives a new life, because it talks about someone's journey, which may be different from the other person, but they tell their journey on how they've risen to the position they have been in.
Wow. Guys, we're going to come back with more. But for now, think about this. Meeting someone, sharing your idea, you guys working together from different fields. I'm talking about people from financial sector. I'm talking people about their coaches. Some are, teachers. Amazing story coming back. We're coming back with more in the next few. But for now, it's time for Panda Basi Mvua, now playing on BazeRadio.co.ke. Panda Basi Mvua, early on playing on BazeRadio.co.ke. If you're joining right now, welcome to BazeRadio.co.ke. As well, you can find us on my Safaricom app. My good name is Silva, Kido. I'm in studio with one and only Irene Karuga. Let me take this opportunity to appreciate the women who came up with the idea, with the stories, collection of stories, talking about aspiration, growth, leadership position. Let me mention a few names. Soni, Anagasa, Musundi, Kellen, Nyawira, Lucy Wairimo, Caroline Kidinji, Perpetua Bulemi, Rosila Omungo, Irene herself iko ndani ya studio, Mary Adoda, Violet Wambua, Michelle Kagari, Josephine Ndambuki, and finally Coleta Masharia. It's so amazing. It's so inspiring, growing up, rising from the ground all the way up. Irene, talking about your book, How We Rise, it's a collective of the individuals, different authors, you guys coming together. What really motivated you guys to sit down, spend time to tell your stories?
So each of the women in the book, we all have our own stories, and we tried telling our stories in the way we know best. Some of us used LinkedIn as a profile where we were able to share information about what we do, what we're passionate about. But there was one gentleman, and I call him a he for she, called Duda Radido. And when he looked at all our profiles from LinkedIn, he saw there was a common conversation that was going on. And he asked himself, how can he bring all these conversations in a book? So he approached us at an individual level, and he reached out to us and said he had this project where he wanted to bring conversations and stories of women who have gone through challenges, tribulations, but have been able to rise into leadership positions. So actually, I would give all the credit to Duda for bringing us together, because one challenge we have as women is, as you will note, sometimes we don't support each other, and that has been a big challenge that we had. But having gone through different journeys, we said, how do we come together and tell our stories? So each of us was actually tasked to writing their own story at an individual level. We were given a timeline within which to write our story, and based on the collection of all those stories, they were now put together to bring in the book. So the interesting thing is, when we read each other's stories, there's something that cuts common among all of us. So in essence, the 12 of us, like Jesus had 12 disciples. Today we can say we are now at 12 sisterhood. And we can, through our stories now, we have been given a common bond that we can then use our stories really as something that another lady or even another young man can use as a manual in terms of what challenges they're going through, how can they navigate to get to where they aspire to be.
Wow. Now I was about to ask you about the 12, disciples. 12 means a lot to you. But finally you guys have made it. You've come up, with the stories. We're here to read the story. But now there's always that thing. Either huyu patikani, I'm a travel, akuna presentation. Being the first time you guys are writing your own book, coming up with your own story. There are challenges.
Yes, they are. I think one of the things that was interesting is for us to get the book even up to the level it has been in terms of it being published. The first thing is we had to agree on a timeline within which we could write the book. We were given up to about 3 weeks for us to come up with what we needed to write. And the 3 weeks meant that if you're a quick writer, you can finish it within a book. If you had a lot of commitments, because we have some of us who travel a lot out of the country, we actually have some who are already traveling as we speak at the moment. So that was really the first challenge we had. Have a clear timeline that helped us know how fast we need to do. And then once that was done, then it was putting now the stories together in a way that they flow with each other, given the fact that we were very different in terms of our sectors, our industries, and our aspiration. So that was put together by Zion Publishers. And then once the draft was out, it was shared with us for us to review. What was interesting is when we even had our first meeting so that we know who's the co-author, who's next in the next chapter. That was a very interesting meeting because when we met together, it's almost like during our introductions, I remember I picked up from Violetta's stories. She spoke about herself and I was able to relate on something I could pick on and continue the story. So each of us, in some sense, our stories speak from each other in terms of how we've pivoted and gotten to where we are.
Wow. Talking about resilience, I know it's very important for women in leadership. We're going to discuss that in the next few. But for now, I've got Loki, Zenia Manasi, a special song to all the 12 women. Major Lee's remix playing on Baze Radio to see the KE. Zab featuring Sofian Zhao. Aleon playing on Baze Radio to see the KE. Coming next for you, Controller Trio Mio featuring BN. Talking about Mwaki. Sofian Zhao is a well-known, Kenyan artist. He was uplifted by a Brazilian producer. Why is it now? This brings now to let me ask you this. We've never seen this. We've never seen this happening. Even if it happened, people say, tunajua watu sio wajinga behind the curtain. You know that for sure. Now, why is it hard for, women? Why can't women support each other while it's easier for men to uplift women?
It's actually interesting. That's really a big challenge that as women we've faced and encountered, and I'll even attribute it to my own journey. If I look back at my career, a lot of the opportunities that were brought to my attention were not brought to the attention by a woman. It was actually a man who told me there's an opportunity, why don't you apply? I think generally as women, as we look at each other, because of we are generally wired to think of ourselves that who is the fairest now. I think even when it comes to opportunities, we tend to want to be the fairest, while forgetting the fact that if you're the only fairest and there's nobody to continue growing that, at some point you grow old and you're no longer as fair. So the idea behind having more men uplifting women than we've seen of women uplifting other women, I think it's time for us as women to realize that the only way we can rise and take on a lot of opportunities that cut across different sectors is to have more women speaking for more women. Because that is the only way where, if I look at myself and say, am I the fairest of them all, is to say, I'm the fairest among all. I'm fair, and I'm fair with this whole sisterhood that is next to me. And how we rise is actually part of that conversation. Because when we look at each of us, we've all risen to different levels, and as we aspired, we all had different aspirations. But today we can confidently say, I reached my highest goal. So when we look at how we rise, is really a collection of women who have said, I'm not the fairest of them all. I am fair, and all these sisters who I can actually say are also fair and they actually should be called in to represent what we are aspiring for as women.
Wow. I know everyone is aspiring something in life. You are aspiring to be the next, maybe. Now you're the director in town. Talking about leadership and success, in your own opinion, how are women redefining leadership success today? Talking about, something particular from your book. Can you pick something from your book especially effective on your book?
Okay. So how we are redefining leadership and success. The first thing what I came to learn even in my leadership journey, if you want people to stop looking at you as a woman from a gender perspective, but as someone who has equal opportunities, will be first, you need to be very excellent in what you do. So a lot of the stories you read, even in How We Rise, for us to be able to get to those pivotal positions, we became solution providers. So we had to get to a point where we had to question the status quo in terms of how things were done, and we were able to stand out with a solution that then made us become recognized. A lot of us got there where we pushed our agendas in a way that our excellence stood out, irrespective of who we were dealing with from an age perspective or from a gender perspective. And that's really what drove the conversation for us to be able to rise. So one of the things that I will say, even some of the leaders we've seen coming up, the first thing that we need to be attributed to is what are we bringing to the table. So that challenges us as women, that it means that for us to be held in the same table and considered an equal partner, it basically means there's some value that we are creating. How do we create value? It means in whatever industry that I'm driving, am I really knowledgeable in terms of understanding what's going on in my industry? And I can pick something that's really affecting especially the Gen Zs. We've seen a lot of ladies coming up in technology and even in science. And one of the things, those were careers that were primarily identified among men because they were considered very technical. So ladies were more predominant in the arts or creatives. But as more women come up, it doesn't mean we need muscle. A lot of these things actually need a lot of intellect. And the good thing about ladies, a lot of us with our creative side, we can actually use that creative side to now change a more technical subject to make it more palatable to more people, because we are able to articulate it in a language that more people are able to understand. So I will say that is really what is redefining how women even present themselves. Mm-hmm. So the message I'm really pointing out as women who want to rise, you don't need to be a man to rise, and you don't need to act like a man to rise.
Wow. Well said. You don't need to be a man to rise. You don't need to act as a man to rise. Now playing Controller Trio Mio featuring Benzo. Niambie pale kwenye 0716250933. Amazing conversation still ongoing in studio with one and only Irene Karuga. You know, Irene, amemanage kuchukua these amazing women, 12 women, sio 12 disciples, coming up with the amazing stories just for us to read their journey. You know, maisha sahi ni kujituma, kujipambania. Imagine wamejishikana, wamejiinua, wametupatia stories zao. Just to the women out there, we really need to work together. We really need to support together. Irene, just to ask you, I know I'll want to read this book. I want to understand, is that one thing you wish, you hope your readers will take away from How We Rise?
So from all the different stories, what cuts across all of us that I believe our readers will be able to pick up is, one, we have a value that is very strong in all of us. It could be integrity, it could be family, it could be our faith. So you'll notice a strong value will always help you know what is my stand as an individual. And this conversation is very real, especially where we're dealing with many young people who ask, how do I deal with peer pressure? So the first thing that we all have common, we had a value that we stood through it, and it actually cuts across part of how we rose from our childhood to where we are. The second thing that I can say the readers will pick up is our story of resilience. I know many times we see really the good side of our lives in terms of when we have reached the higher level, but nobody sees what's below the iceberg. So this book is really about telling the readers what lies below the iceberg. Some of the challenges we had to go through, some of them being imposter syndrome, where you feel you're not good enough. I mean, for me, it was a nursery rhyme that really defined who I was. And I want you to read the story so that you get to know how a nursery rhyme defined me for more than 10 years of my life. And if I had let it become a setback, then I will not even be here today saying my story. The third thing I want to say is all of us have different aspirations, and each of our aspirations may differ. Some might be leading a big corporate, some might be leading their own business. So what is your personal aspiration? And the book will really journey the stories of different women and how they got to the aspirations that they have. And when you reach that level of aspiration where you say, it goes beyond my career, it goes beyond running a business, is where you know you're doing something that is more, it's less about you and more about you giving back in terms of service and having impact to many more people.
Irene, just to ask you about the story, amazing stories I'm yet to read in the next few. Just to ask you, what is the favorite story from all the authors, 12 authors?
At this point, I can honestly not say I have any favorite. Each of the stories, actually, I'm able to resonate with all of them in one way, and that's how I was able to pick up the three key things that stand out for me. But what is, I think also what is, I would say, in terms of the collection of the stories, and that's what makes the book interesting. It's not a story of one person where
There's no story that resonates with you. Come on.
I will say beyond my own. I think beyond my own was. I think one of the ones that I've read that I really love, and it was a very different twist for me, was one for Coletta. So Coletta is very interesting. It's something that, you know, the way you can aspire to get to somewhere, and hers is about her becoming an expatriate because that's what she envisioned. But it changed it as much as she got what she wanted from being an expatriate, working in a different country. I think one of the things that stood out for her, it wasn't as glamorous as she thought when she realized at some point that, okay, I'm an expat, then what? And I think for me that story really stood out because sometimes when you're on this other side, you think it's really glamorous. Until you get there is when you realize. And also that's what happens with leadership. It might look interesting because of the perks, but someone doesn't know really what goes into for you to become a successful leader. And I think the journey of the 12 women really is raw and authentic, telling the real story of what happens behind the scenes.
All right, I'm ready on the story How We Rise. But for now, let's have some good time. It's Nashanga, it's Yaba, featuring Bien, now playing on BazeRadio.co.ke. Sisi ni wale tuliobarikiwa na Mungu. Fina, what does this song reminds you of?
It reminds me actually of really my story. It's about the story of grace. A lot of the opportunities that I have is about grace. I posted this song actually when I sent the flyer to today's show. And I said, indeed, sisi ni wale tulisaidiwa na Mungu. Because beyond human ability, God is the one who opens doors for us, and we really are grateful. A lot of our stories, you'll also resonate with the fact that we believe in a higher being, because beyond our personal capacities, there's somebody else who we have to ask for help, and that is God.
Do you think like most of us maybe fail to achieve our dreams because maybe we're not patient enough, we don't trust the process? At times we feel like, ay, Mungu wa Elsa Majimbo, Mungu wa Larry, Mungu wa
I think what happens is the way we are wired or how we are created, it's not a microwave sort of success. The reason why you go through different issues, and that's the reason why patience is important, is until you get to that place is when you look back at your journey and say, I built my resilience through going through something. For example, if you want to become a patient person, guess what? You'll be put in situations where you'll get really annoyed with people, because that's how you build that particular skill. The same way, if you say, I want to be a good speaker, you'll be put in situations where you'll have to talk all the time. Almost your voice is hoarse. And sometimes when we make a prayer, we never go back to ask, what exactly are we looking to build? True. So through that patience, we know that we are building that muscle and resilience. And I like using the gym guys as really as an example. If I want to be a good bodybuilder, have a good body, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of commitment to get there. So really every story is about commitment and being patient. So I don't believe in instant success. I believe those building blocks make who you are.
True. Talking about How We Rise, what next?
So for us, we are excited because on the 2nd of August, that's a Friday, from 2 to about 6 p.m., we'll be at Swiss Lenana, where we'll be officially launching the book. And we want to invite all of us. There's a link for registration, because we want, as the authors, to come together and bring in our family, friends, and other people who really resonate with our stories to be able to get a copy of the book, which will be autographed by all of us. We also have a pre-order link that will be that's also available, where someone can order. And even for people who are overseas, it's currently on Amazon, so you can actually be able to order a copy, because we want to reach as many people as possible. Because beyond this, expect to also use this an opportunity to mentor other young people who are coming up in their leadership journeys. And what I note, though we are all 12 authors who are women, this story does not necessarily have to resonate with women only. We also want to encourage young men, because we also want to be she's for he and she's for she. So we want to support both genders.
All right, nice. But for one, maybe to keep in touch with you guys, maybe in terms of now, how can they come on board to support? Are there other social media platforms? Are there contacts?
So currently, all the authors, we've all posted in our individual links, so we will be able to refer that. But you can also go to the website for Zion Publishers, is where all the links are available for you to attend the launch, for you to be able to pre-order the book, and also for Amazon as well. And we believe in the next few weeks, especially after the launch, we will see a lot of activity in our social media pages as we invite you to engage. And feel free to also ask questions about some of our journeys. We'll be happy to share that. And even through this platform, we thank Baze Radio for also inviting us to be able to share a snippet of what really is a conversation that we're getting out here, because we believe the next generation has a manual that they can use to also look at how to navigate.
Nice. Not to forget, how much is the book costing?
The book is currently going for 2,500, and it's actually a hard copy book, and it will be available once you place the order. It will be delivered for you at no additional cost. So we invite all of us to be able to do. And for people who resonate with it, and you're probably dealing with campuses or universities or other young people that you want to support, we also invite corporates who want to support and buy books that we can be able to also give to other people who are not able to necessarily afford to purchase.
All right. Thank you so much, Irene Karuga, for talking to us, for creating time to pass by to talk to us. How we rise. Women navigating challenges, embracing resilience and agility, and redefining leadership success. 1,000 reasons for you to grab this copy is going for 2,500 boob. You as well, you got a chance to be invited for the official launch that is coming up next month on 2nd of August. 2nd of August. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best. To other ladies, all the best in your life. I'm looking forward to get a copy, to promote you, to buy you, and to hear your story so that I can tell the people around me. Thank you so much for passing by. This is Baze Radio to see the KE. Till next time, same place, same time. We link up.
This is Baze Radio.
We are 254 to the core.